that political groups from outside Dearborn are manipulating our community to whip up hate against teachers and administrators and support staff, and especially against our LGBTQ students and staff members. Very same groups who are doing this in hundreds of school districts in dozens of states, all in the last year. We all know this is about erasing our LGBTQ students and staff. It was literally written on signs people brought to the meeting on Monday.
The majority of parents are not here to attack anyone. We are not here to attack the board. We are not here to attack the LGBT community. And we are not here especially to attack our teachers. We are justified in voicing our concern about normalizing sexually inappropriate content in public schools. To the LGBT community, the majority of parents are not here to attack your right to exist in a free society. But parents also have rights to protect their children. Criticism of age-inappropriate content is not criticism of the LGBT community. However, advocating for such materials to be placed in schools is a violation of parents' rights. And for the person that said that in the back, I'll repeat what he said. American values and the American way is not child pornography.
This political group has used fear and misinformation to intentionally divide our community and cast negative allegations on the integrity of our staff. I find it puzzling that the community media sources have highlighted and spread the misinformation from this group. Love and concern that every parent has for their children is being exploited with these false narratives to divide our community for public reasons. But no parent should be able to tell another parent what their child is allowed or not to read. Thank you.
Question: are you still standing firm in the statements you made when you were running for and gathering votes for your current positions? I take that as a no.
I just want everybody to know that my loyalty does not lie to the right or to the left. It lies just to my community and my child and my future children. We've been called so many names: Trumpers, MAGAs, extremists, Christian white nationalists. Somebody put a picture of us, apparently. Terror, whatever. And I just want to say something, that if we were anti-LGBT, we would be going after these social clubs in schools. From my understanding, there are gay straight alliance clubs in the high schools, and if this was an anti-LGBT movement, we would be going after them before we'd go after the books. The media itself blurred out the images from these books.
But it's about the sexually explicit material, which after purchasing and reading through some of the books ourselves, we can confirm is in them, including graphic depictions of rape and instructions for finding online and performing different styles of intercourse.
Can we teach the next generation of citizens to embrace democratic values like freedom of the press, freedom of speech, and freedom of religion if we betray these principles and deny them these liberties in school?
Please allow the speaker to speak. Thank you. Continue.
We all want children to be safe, and we all want them to be well informed. These goals seem like they are in conflict today, but they don't have to be. We know that sexuality is more or less the same over the course of someone's life, even if how they express it goes through changes. I was born gay. No matter how homophobic my environment was, no matter how much I denied it, nothing could change that. It just made me suffer. For many people like me, that pain drove them to suicide. Banning LGBT books isn't going to stop anyone from being gay. It will just make them miserable and alienate them, and the consequences might be fatal. I want everyone here to imagine a time when they felt like everyone around you hated you for who you are. I'm not Muslim, and most of you aren't gay, but all of us know what it is like to be mistreated by people who know little about you. Maybe you can hide who you are, but that hurts in a different way. The far right in this country despises us all. What I'm asking for is that everyone have compassion and consider the harm you do to the most vulnerable among us when you stigmatize their very existence. It is the duty of every community to build a nurturing environment. Even though I had open-minded and supportive parents who instilled in me the value of books and diverse cultures, without a supportive environment, I still suffered. We owe today's students a better community. Let's build that community environment by choosing to discuss difficult topics rather than shying away from them. Let's stand together in solidarity and hospitality. Dearborn should be a city where everyone knows that they are safe and loved and supported.
The issue here is not a religious one, nor is it an attack against the LGBTQ community. It is an issue of age appropriateness. It is an issue of sexually explicit, obscene, and lewd content. Many of us here don't care what your sexual preference is, nor do we want to argue about gender identities or if men can get pregnant. What concerns us is that your personal beliefs do not poison our beliefs, our religious duties, or the biological facts. When the schools decided to take God out of the classroom, it was to protect children from being indoctrinated. The same applies here.
This is not a debate about books. It's a debate about culture. And let's just admit that. Because
Be respectful
people
and allow someone
who
to
want to ban books about gay people and come up and use words like pedophile to describe gay people, who use words like sexual perversion to describe gay people, you're not trying to ban a book. You're trying to ban gay people. That's what this is about. And it's obvious because the signs are there. And you know what? It's not about pornography either, because you printed out 8-foot-tall signs of what you called was pornography, and then you showed it to dozens of children at your own rallies. If it's pornography, then the guy holding the sign was showing it to all your kids. Come on, man. Let's talk about what this really is. You hate gay people, and it's obvious, because look at how you behave when one gay person speaks. Look at how you act, and your children are watching.
Mr. Stone.
At the front end of this issue is explicit sexual material made accessible or taught to students, which is illegal in Michigan law section 722.675, titled Disseminating, Exhibiting, or Displaying Sexually Explicit Matter to Minors. But let's be very clear that at the core of this issue is an ideological battle. And it seems like, and I hope I'm mistaken in my assessment, that some members of this board have inclined towards an insane, liberal LGBT ideology that holds many fanatical views, but none so deranged as the idea that pornography is good and students should have access to pornographic material in school as part of education. And I don't accuse you of holding these stances. However, the way that you've handled it so far is somewhat doubting, because any pornographic books on any sexuality, whether on homosexuality, incest, pedophilia, zoophilia, or other forms of sexual perversions is illegal and should never been on our shelves to start with. This is about the deliberate targeting of students with certain toxic, indecent content of an insane ideology that students must not be around. And the reality is, the proponents of LGBT liberal ideology here and elsewhere are fine with democracy as long as people vote for their fanatical views, and as long as it supports their wicked agendas. If people vote against their views, the liberal authority blocks the democratic process and imposes the LGBT liberal positions on the populace. They are Hitler. They are the oppressors. They are radical extremists. And through this evil, we're able to know who to vote in or out.
Hi, I'm JoJo. I'm an alumni of DPS, and I started working at a school running a before and after school program. I am queer and transgender. More specifically, I am non-binary and I use they, them pronouns. While this is a huge part of my overall identity and I am very proud to be queer and transgender, it is not my entire identity. When you are young, it is incredibly difficult to be unable to put names to what you're feeling and experiencing. It was only very recently I was able to put the name to the cold, lonely, and isolating feeling I get as gender dysphoria. Had I been aware of the books and resources available to students in the libraries, I have no doubt I would have had an easier time accepting myself and relating to
Please
others in
allow
the
the
world.
speaker to speak.
Being LGBTQ+ is not a choice, and it is so hard to have your mind stuck in a body you feel isn't your own while people hate you for the very thing out of your control. People who don't know the first thing about you, only that you're different from them, so you must be evil. I honestly don't want to be here, but I know what it's like to have been a queer and trans student and now a staff member. I personally found a way to deal with the blatant transphobia I faced as a student through my peers and staff members, even though I still deal with it on a daily basis. I refuse to let other children be traumatized in the same way I was. I need to fight for the queer and transgender kids because I was one of them and I didn't have anyone in the system fighting for me. I'm 19 and I'm so tired I feel it in my bones, but I will not give in to the hatred. We are here, we are queer, and we're not going anywhere. LGBTQ+ people will keep existing in the world whether or not you want to erase our existences. And if you take these books out of schools where children are sent to learn, you are aiding and endangering LGBTQ youth's lives. I stand firm in what I believe and I will not back down. It's as simple as not buying mustard if you don't like it. If you don't want to read it, don't check it out. If these books are banned, the only other alternative would be to turn to the internet, a wildly vast place full of misinformation and bigotry. These books written by queer and transgender authors for queer and transgender kids are the most reliable and safe options. My question is, why would you take this resource from kids who need it? Don't pretend you're all doing this for anyone except yourself.
We are here for our kids. And when I say selection book, I didn't say banning books. So we are here to select the right books for our kids. We're not here to just ban any book for no reason. There are reasons to remove these books from the shelves. And you guys have to understand the fact that it's your responsibility to do that.
It's either my kids should be banned from all the books, and that's unrealistic, or I should state the title and the author of the book that they should not check. So I should do your job and check more than 500,000 books to do that? Does that make sense? That doesn't make any sense. It's very clear from what we heard, this is not a religious matter. It's not against a group. It's not against the teachers, okay? This is us, loyal to our kids, not to the right and not to the left, not to any political party. We're not here for a political issue. But we will remember your names when August and November of every year comes. I will remember your names every August and every November comes.
And I'm speaking as a parent and as an educator. As an educator, I have seen throughout our school system how our students are struggling to read. They're struggling to do math. Our students come to school for college and career readiness. Kids do not come to school, and back up, parents do not send their kids to school to explore their sexuality. That is not why people send their children to school. It is a false narrative that parents who do not want their children exposed to graphic sex acts somehow hate somebody. That is nonsense. And when I look at what our kids are exposed to in the media, the last thing they need to do at school is learn how to sexually pleasure themselves. Also, I haven't heard the comment made recently, but many of the speakers here disparage the parents here as though they're being held captive by some right-wing agenda. Like the parents in this room are too stupid, too ignorant to come to their own conclusions, like they don't have their own set of morality to not want their kids exposed to this content. I'm speaking as a parent. We, the parents of America, are tired of the schools turning into social and political machines instead of institutions of higher learning, as we're watching the students of America slip behind on a global scale to compete academically, This is not the time for more sexualization. And also, parents have a right to determine what their kids are exposed to. I think it is absolutely unacceptable for people in education to think that they know what's best for somebody else's child. God gave me my child, not the school district, and I guarantee you that every parent agrees. And every parent has a right to object to the things their kids are being exposed to. But there is a breaking point. And the breaking point is this: the fundamental existence of school is not to learn about sexual pleasure, not to learn about new sex acts. The fundamental purpose of school is to prepare our kids to be successful adults who can go off and have careers. And it is up to every parent to then teach their kids morality. It is out of the place for the school to do it, and I reject any notion that parents here are filled with hate or bigotry. The parents don't want their kids sexualized. If other people want to sexualize their kids, that's their business, not our.
The teachers shouldn't be made to be responsible to teach sexuality. They're not authorized to do it, and they're not actually able to do it. And so let's keep that out of the schools. Some educators and education boards mistakenly think it's their duty to raise other people's children, especially when it comes to sexuality and gender identity. In some cities, schools are even doing things that their parents don't agree to and don't know about. When the children come to school, they're helping the child dress in a different way according to a different sex, take on a different identity when they're at school, and then change back when they go home. Now, God forbid that that should happen here, but it's happening in real cities, in real schools in America, and teachers mistakenly think it's their job to do that. And they are not, it's not their job, and they're not helping children.
I think I can say on behalf of the majority of our community that we don't care whether the pornographic photos and erotic speech are homosexual, lesbian, or straight. If there's pornography in any books available to kids and teens, we want that out, gay or not. And to one person earlier saying that porn in books is the American way, keep that phony American way in your home, not in our communities. Why are we split in the first place? Does the LGBT community show porn to their kids growing up? I don't think so.
For better or for worse, books are the gateway to independent, critical thought, imagination, and understanding of differing experiences. And to force a ban on books that will 100% benefit students who identify and resonate with the themes we've talked about tonight is an act of selfishness and intolerance. I understand that not every parent is okay with their child being exposed, but the board and its media specialists have taken the time to curate a wonderful, equitable mechanism that adheres to both state and federal law and gives parents precisely what they want, right? So why has this become public news? Why are we here today?
I think everyone is familiar with Romeo and Juliet. Well, in Act 3, Scene 5, there's an underage sex that happens in Romeo and Juliet. But that book is not on the ban list. Why? Because it's not gay. That's why. These people who are trying to silence you are terrified of you. They think that reading your books will turn their children gay, which is like me saying, if I read a comic book, I can fly. It is a nonsense statement. So stop being afraid of these books. If you're really worried about them, I don't know, maybe talk to your kids about them, read them with them, give them context. Try something like that.
If books about weaponry and violence are banned from libraries in order to prevent premature damage on impressionable kids, how are books with content that could easily be considered pornography any less dangerous? Guns kill people and porn kills brains.
Today, we are not going to talk. Nobody's going to speak. Yeah, I'm the only one that's going to be in this building.
The media and the people who are opposing our stance keep saying send a book banning. Okay, these are fear-mongering political rhetoric.
Limits for a reason. So all of a sudden now we want to have these children be exposed to explicit material at such a young age.
A report by PEN America found that 41% of books being banned across the country contain LGBTQ+ themes. Kathleen Battles is a queer scholar at Oakland University. She told me she insists that this is what the fight is about. She believes these books are imperative for queer students growing up in heterosexual homes.
They might not be able to learn about that with their families, but in a different kind of environment with educators and with peers, they can learn about those things.
Is a sexually explicit material necessary, do you believe?
I think in the long run, yes, representation itself is more important than sexually explicit material. But the fact is that if you look at our broader culture, it's full of sexually explicit material.
Michigan law states media materials containing graphic and/or gratuitous violence, sexual content, expletives, or hate speech, and without literary or educational merit should not be included in our school media centers. The Dean of University Libraries at Oakland University tells me school librarians know this, and they follow a detailed process when picking out books.
I trust that expertise because it's not a willy-nilly, oh, this looks good, I think I'll put it in the collection. No, there are standards and there are policies that guide what we select for our collections.
Across Michigan, the fight continues. In the last year, these books have been removed from Troy, Rochester, and Novi public school libraries. In Ottawa County, residents defunded their only library because of its LGBTQ+ collection. In Hillsdale, residents tried to ban books containing transgender themes. Experts say they haven't seen this level of opposition in schools since the 1980s.
I think that for certain groups of people, it pushes against their own beliefs, their religious beliefs, their moral beliefs. But at the end of the day, you know, LGBTQIA kids exist, and they're going to exist whether you ban books.
It's supposed to be a safe place. It's supposed to be an environment away from politics, away from progressive ideology.
It's going to be a larger crowd, I guarantee you that. Until there's closure to this matter, until parents are heard, until our demands and our concerns do not fall on deaf ears, this will continue to escalate.
Moments in this issue comes up in Dearborn, but it's the same issue we're seeing in Grand Rapids. We're seeing it in Kalamazoo. We're seeing it in Northern Michigan. We're seeing it everywhere where school boards think that they can ignore the rights of the parents in terms of how their children are educated.
There's a Edsel Ford sticker on here.
Stephanie Butler says her daughter checked this book out today at Edsel Ford High School. It's titled Flamer. It depicts sexually explicit acts between young boys, some with graphic descriptions.
You know, when you put something in a kid's mind, it makes them want to do it more or try it.
Butler has submitted complaints about 6 different books, some available in person and others through the school's Sora app. Do you think there should be some literature that helps students who are navigating sexual identity or not?
Oh, absolutely. But if these were just LGBT kid romance novels, that is totally appropriate, totally appropriate. Where I draw the line is guides on teaching them how to actually do the act.
This Book is Gay is one title in particular that really upset Butler. She even reported it to Dearborn Police. Paul Bruce, a former teacher with the district, says the book has educational value.
It answers so many questions I wish could have been answered for me as a child. My life would have been so much better.
The book covers topics like how to join dating apps and how to talk to people who identify as Christian or Muslim about your sexuality.
You have to be able to address those concerns. How do you stay safe?
Across
across the state of Michigan and across the country who are looking and seeing what their kids are learning in school. These parents have been through a lot with their kids over the last 2 years, shutdowns, and they really started to see, for the parents, frankly, who had kids lucky enough to do Zoom, what was being taught in class. And parents are hyper engaged now. Their children are behind in school. Michigan, we have the lowest reading and math scores in the country, and parents are engaged. They want to know what's going on in my children's school. I have to say, I looked up some of these books, and like you said, I mean, if you can't show this on the air, then it should not be in a 10-year-old's classroom.
Start taking people's rights out. I'm afraid they're going to take our rights out.
There is
and
no
they're going
right
to prevent
in this
people
country.
from walking on the street.
So let me
wearing
Osama,
hijab.
respectfully, there is no right in this country to show children graphic sexual
I'm not talking about the books. I'm not talking about the books.
I want to talk about some legal.
I'm talking about LGBTQ and the community. It might be my neighbor. It
Some
might be
legal
my schoolmate.
implications here, Osama and Tori. Charlie, you're the legal analyst. I want to bring you into the fold here. What are the legal implications of my child being exposed to something that could be considered harmful or offensive if they're enrolled in the school?
I think if the Dearborn Board of Education wants to ban books, I think they can legally do it. I don't know why they would, though. I've looked at all of them. I've read them. I've looked at all those books. Yeah, have you looked at the Canterbury Tales, one of the most popular English literature? You know what that Canterbury Tales by Chaucer? It's read in most schools. It's about sex. It's about oral sex. It's about mistresses. It's about all kinds of things. It's one of the most. Yeah, Wizard of Oz was banned at one time. Have you ever read Tom Sawyer, Huckleberry Finn? The N-word is all over them. These are classic works of literature. Taken out of context is wrong. But I have known, the Dearborn I know is a group of people. How many countries are represented? How diverse
52.
is that?
We have
Many.
52
And this is a book, most of these books are about acceptance, about overcoming adversity, about learning about people that have maybe different values or different thoughts than other people. I can't believe that they, but legally.
About election, my friend.
Well,
Dearborn
question.
voted
about election.
70%
That's
for
why
the
you see right
Democrats
now-
in
But I
every
want-
election.
Tori,
But
I wanna-
you're going to be sorely mistaken when you realize people are going to vote Republican because Republicans do not believe that children at school should be sexualized.
Republicans
They
wants-
believe
wants
that
to
children
deport
should
us
learn
from
to.
this country.
No,
Tori,
we
let me ask
don't.
you this.
We
Hold
are
on.
standing with
Hold on,
you.
hold on
We are
one-
standing
Rick
up
Snyder,
and saying,
the Republican that represented by Rick Snyder don't want. But those people have been, even he departed the party.
Osama, I have to
This-
interrupt for a moment. Tori, one moment here. He brought up a point. He said the word, this is political. Let's be honest about where the lines are drawn here, on a political or a moral line. We know that two people running for office, for Secretary of State, Christina Caramo, and Matt DePerno were both at tonight's meeting. For someone to say this isn't political, it may be wrong, wouldn't you say?
Maybe it's
I
their
watched-
first trip to
Go ahead,
Dearborn, by
Tori.
the way.
I watched a lot of the speakers tonight. I've read a lot of what the parents are saying in Dearborn. And these are people who've never been involved politically before. These are people who are probably now, a lot of cases, working 2 jobs to keep up with inflation. And they took the time tonight to go and advocate for their children because they want their children, when they go to school, to learn how to read, learn how to write, learn how to do math, learn history, learn how to get along with other people. They don't want them to be exposed to graphic sexual
our
content.
candidate's stoking
That
the
is
flames on a
crazy.
culture war,
Absolutely not.
would you
There is
say?
one side, the Republicans, who believe that parents should be listened to, that schools should be for learning. We have Democrats running.
So no
who
book
think-
about-
I want
Dana
the
Nessel, the Democrat, thinks there
parents
should
to
be a graduation
decide.
Should
I want the
any book-
parents to decide
hold on,
what their
hold on.
kids should
Should a
see and
book-
should
should a
not see.
book about
Not
it-
the Republican
hold on.
Party
Should
and
a-
not the Democratic
hold on.
Party.
Should
Let
a
me
book
say
about-
something in
Should a
here,
book
Charlie.
about an
1 second.
LGBT be taught in Dearborn schools?
graphic sexual content, teaching children. This particular book has how to download a sex app, how to upload a photo of yourself, how to meet other people.
I
near
haven't
you.
seen this book.
We'll,
I have
we'll
not.
take a look.
I have been
It's
in
right
38
here.
years
10-year-olds
in
do
Dearborn.
not
I've never
need
heard
to
of
learn
these
how
books.
to meet
You know how
people
many books there are
online. That
in
is
the library
crazy.
electronically?
Osama, the question then is-
500,000 books.
But you-
in the
you made a
library.
point. You
Now
said-
you're talking to me about a book, and you raise Holy Hill over it, and you bring candidates never been to Dearborn in their life in order to make a case before the community.
So
they
you're
are
saying-
using our community
You're saying this is
for
they're using it as a
election
political
purposes.
A political
That's
reason.
it.
Tori, when you look at Matt DePerno and Christina Caramo stepping foot into Dearborn in the middle of a neighborhood meeting, Can you see how people think this sounds a little political?
I don't think any of you watched the meeting because they were
I
both
watched the
applauded. They were both applauded very loudly, and they didn't talk
They're
about why
applauded
they were
because they're
running.
being used.
They were talking about the fact that our children are being sexualized, that we have an Attorney General, Dana Nessel, who wants to put a drag queen in
Dana
every school.
Nessel has
We
the
see
most
what
diverse
happens.
administration in the history
She wants
of
to
the
put-
state of Michigan.
No, she wants to put a
It is
drag
a
queen in
truth.
every
It
school.
is a
Please
fact.
go to MichiganFreedomFund.com if you want to watch the video of Dana Nessel.
She is the
calling for a drag
people's
queen in
lawyer.
every school.
She has done a great job. We're going to endorse her. We're going to support her.
Let me ask you this, Tori. If this last book, which has all of the documents that you have in front of you, the PDFs are the most controversial parts, the parts with the sex apps and the instructions on sexual activity. If this book is gay is taken out of the mix, would you be okay with other books that simply have LGBTQ themes in it? Would you be okay with that?
There were actually other books tonight that were brought up by the parents at the meeting that were not on these lists. A parent talked about a book that his son saw in the 4th grade. Another parent talked about a book their son saw in the 2nd grade, both that were in the classroom, not that were in the libraries. This is a very important issue. Parents are engaged. We see what's happening.
There is a committee that would review any book that the parents wants to be reviewed, taken out. Let's let
We
the
need to
process
stop
take its place.
vilifying
Now we are
parents.
rushing into the process because there is an election on November 8th. I would like to see these two candidates after November 8th, what they will do and where they would show
The
up.
meeting was called by the Dearborn schools. This is not, the only people politicizing this are the people who have been bought by the woke agenda. We simply want our kids to go to school to feel safe. You know, like, I don't
But why,
understand
Tori,
why
why
that is
not have moms
controversial.
and
These
dads?
parents,
We have had-
Why
We've
not
had
have
the
moms
best-
and dads
we've had-
decide this? Why have Karamo and DePerno on their soapboxes? They are running for office at a meeting. If it's not political, why not let moms and dads decide this issue?
they are, and they were
And-
there.
and the
They
board,
were there,
and the
frankly,
board,
to
and the
support
administration,
parents.
and the committees. You know, there is a committee in place to review any book that the parents wants to review. So why put this today on a high speed or on the front burner with all the knobs turned
Then
all the
ask
way
your
high?
school board that, because parents are pissed
they are
off.
trying to
Because you had
buy
1,300 parents there
cheap
tonight.
votes. Once they get the vote, once this election is over, you're not going to see any of this.
Let me pose the same question to you. If this was not an election year and someone said to you there was a book in which there was advertisements for sex apps and instructions on
For
sexual
young
activity
children, for elementary school children.
would you object to that?
You want my opinion?
Yes.
I'm totally against the books. I'm totally against the books. But it is not my place to decide. It's the parents should be deciding what their kids should be learning. Tori,
Very
can I ask you a
true.
question?
Yes.
Why now?
Because this is happening all over the country.
It's happening
been
all over the
happening.
country
Yes.
because
It is.
because the
It
Republican lost the voter rights and the Republican lost on the abortion issue. So they are finding another issue in order to grab some votes.
And
before
by the way,
November.
the book that Tori points out today in Florida right now is under the microscope. This the gay book for the same reasons it's being discussed here tonight in Dearborn. Listen, we're not going to be able to solve all of the problems.
We
but
will
at least
try.
We begin the discussion here. We thank you so much, Osama. We thank you, Tori, for joining
Thanks
us.
for having me.